Sweet, so this is the first of our Tuakana Teina tutorial sessions for week one. So for week one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through Rekordbox tips and basic DJ mixing, small introduction. My name is Matt Brown, third year audio student. We had a Tuakana Teina program when I was studying engineering at the University of Auckland. During that time I tutored engineering design, structural mechanics, mathematic modelling and fluid dynamics. I've DJed for the past 6 years, psytrance through various festivals, DJed on a boat, a train, in caves, on an island, and military bunkers. I also played at studio with drum and bass, DJed some of the underground gigs at the Domain. I've DJed on a boat, and I've also played a set at Pointers in studio. And I've also done stage design for the past 6 years. So it's a few of the gigs that I've played over the years. Some of the stages that I've designed. This was at Om Festival a few years ago. This was Om Festival the year before. That's Dimension Festival. And this was Dimension Festival last year. I've also put on a few gigs. I did High Distinction at studio, and I was also the in-house tech at studio all of 2020. So Tuakana Teina, what is it? It means literally older sibling, younger sibling. It was a way of teaching and a way of handing down knowledge through teaching what you know. It also allows you to reinforce what you've learnt through teaching others. And how I think this can really help within SAE is it helps for people who have been in the industry to share insight from personal experience and not have to learn from mistakes. I guess one thing when it comes to experience is you make a lot of mistakes, and I'm just pretty much helping you guys out so that you don't need to make the same mistakes that I did. Cool. So for week one, Rekordbox tips and basic DJ mixing. What we're going to do is we're going to go through some basic setup, signal flow, using industry standard equipment, a few tips around Rekordbox library prep, and a few mixing tips. Cool. So before we jump into that, we'll jump straight over and start going through some of the gear. So this here is a 900 Nexus mixer. This is industry standard. This was only really upgraded in the last few years to later models. There's now the V10 6-channel mixer, but most clubs will have a 900 Nexus mixer. So pretty much the way we set up this, normally this should all be set up when you get there, but we have a look at what's behind. Yeah, this one. Cool. So behind here we have our master channel out, left and right. We've got our line ins on all 4 of these. We've got our booth monitors. The way I've set this up is I've got one of these speakers playing booth. The other one I've hooked it up to hear what you would hear inside the headphones, just to give you guys tips. I guess we'll just jump straight in. These are your channels. Normally at a setup you'd have 2 CDJs, one on each side. We've only got one available to use, but it's enough to kind of get your head around the controls and what does what. I'll be going through a lot of this quite quickly. If you guys do need more help, there's plenty of resources online. I'm only teaching what I know, stuff that I've learnt through experience, just to make stuff a little bit easier for you guys. And so yeah, first things first, when it comes to, I guess we'll go with queuing your tracks. Alright, so if you've got a track that you're playing, we'll bring it in. So at the moment that's coming through our master, if we turn it up, it'll start to come through our booth. And then to hear it through your headphones, if I turn down the booth and the master, you need to press Q button will send this signal through to your headphones. And at the moment I've got the headphones just split out to headphones and this speaker. So this speaker here, you'll essentially be hearing what I'll be hearing in the headphones. So when it comes to, I guess, step 1, BPM, you need to make sure that your BPM is matched. You do that using your slider here. The way to cue your tracks, what you want to do is you want to find the first beat where it drops. So if you hear now, this is what I'll be hearing through the headphones. You're hearing the track but not the bass yet. So I'll kind of turn it up so you kind of get what I mean. So this is where it will be dropping in. So that's the drop. So what you want to do is you want to go back to before that drop. And when you hear this sound, that's pretty much your drop. So if I press Q now. So now when you press Q, that should be on that first drop. So essentially what you're doing is you're setting that drop up so that when the next track is coming up to a point where you feel like you can drop it in, then it's already set up. See, and then just jump back as Q. So if you've got something playing in the other channel, because I've only got one CDJ, I've got this controller playing through the other channel. So even just as an example, we're going to play this. Okay. So if you imagine this is the track that's playing. So imagine if this is what the crowd is hearing. And now, so this is what you'd be hearing in the headphones. So I'll be counting it in. So this track here that you're hearing out of this speaker, that's just your headphones. So the other people won't be able to hear that. But you'll hear it synced with the track that's already playing. If it's not, you'll be using this to jog to get it to sync up. Okay, when it's pretty well synced, then just basics of mixing. You only want to have one low at a time. People mix differently. Your highs, your mids. So if I were to just bring it in, this is quite hard and fast in terms of how I'm teaching you guys, but it's just an example. This is coming into a breakdown. So at the moment we're in a breakdown for this song. If you can count 16 bars, then it shouldn't sound too off. So, I don't know, people mix differently. I'd call that a bad mix because it was one breakdown into another breakdown. What we'll do is we'll just kind of jump into a little bit of theory of what we're actually trying to achieve when it comes to mixing. So, basic mixing elements. We've got pan, left to right. Normally most people keep that in the middle. We've got top to bottom, which is your EQ. And then we've got front to back, which is field of depth. And that's pretty much where most of the magic happens when it comes to mixing. But essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to layer two tracks in a way that it sounds cohesive and it keeps people dancing. I think the easiest way to show this is we'll mix two tracks on Rekordbox. So this is the program. It's a little bit different to what we're up to over here, but it'll give you a little bit of a better idea. Okay. Okay, I'm going to shift the headphones over to here. Okay, so now we're playing this first track. Okay, so I'm going to put it through these master speakers. That'll essentially be what the PA is. We've got our booth monitor, which is what will be in the booth. It's coming out of here. And then I've got headphones coming out the other one. Okay, so just to run you through roughly, headphones out of this speaker is what we'll be hearing out of this speaker's headphone. Through this speaker here is booth, and then we've got our mains at the back. So we've done it a little bit differently, that this speaker here, normally only you would hear that. That's what's coming out of the headphones. I'll turn the booth down, just a little bit of better idea of this. Okay, so now for headphones, we're going over to our next track, and you'll start to see that a lot of my tracks have these arrows, and what we're going to do is I'm going to just run through what that kind of means. So with these arrows, these are in 16 bar increments, which means that as we're mixing, they're going to be in sync. So you remember this speaker is only what we'd be hearing. If I turn up the booth, you kind of hear what's playing now, what's coming in. And essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to get that to sync up. So if you listen to the headphones and the booth, you can see that's pretty well in sync. It's a little bit easier when you can see what you're doing. But see, this speaker here, what you're hearing out of this is what you'll be hearing out of the headphones. So if I turn the headphones off, you'll only be hearing this. So in the headphones, essentially what you want to do is you want to bring this new track in without it being too over the top of the other one. So how I normally do it is you want to take your lows out, mids you want to take to about 10 o'clock, highs at about 9. And what that's going to do is it's going to sit it behind the track. So if I bring this in, turn headphones off. So if you listen to this, see how it's sitting in the back now? Okay, so the way I look at it is highs is how close it is. So this one is right in your face, this one is slightly back. So as we're building up to a drop, you're starting to bring this up, and essentially what it's doing is it's bringing it closer, 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 swap. So when it comes to mixing, start playing with your field of depth. If the background track, you don't want it to just sit here and get louder and louder and louder and take over it. You want to bring it from the background, closer, 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 and then in. So the backwards track, the one that's at the back, we're going to start turning the highs down, and that's just pushing it back more. Another way to fill out that depth is to use reverb. So I've already got that set up on here. And if you add a little bit of reverb, it just helps it sit more wider in the back. And then that way, this track that's in, it's in and it's there. And you can start to bring this one out. Now we're coming into a breakdown. Okay, breakdowns are good because you can mix breakdown into intro. Okay, what I'll do is I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but using the CDJ now. So, okay, let's do it with a track. So if you'll notice in the headphones now, I'll put the headphones back into this one. So I've already got it on the cue. So now that that's synced, what we're going to do is we're going to take it out of the headphones. Same again, lows out, mids at about 10, highs at about 9. And then just start to bring it in. You hear it in the booth. So we're starting to bring this closer. Bring it a little bit closer. You never want both of these to be up, so just swap them over slightly. Bring the highs closer, 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 closer. And now swap. Further away, further away, further away. Okay, so now the same trick with reverb. Where you find that is here on your effects. This is the channel you're allocating it to, channel 3. Turning on the effects on. Now I've got a little bit of reverb on that track there. Turn it down a bit. Just pushing it to the back. A little bit more reverb, making it wider at the back. Okay. I'm just going to keep this going, so I'll bring up the next track on the laptop. You'll see with this next track I'm bringing in, I'm going to do it so that there's an intro. So now we've got 32 bars until the drop. So if I start that when it's 32 bars before this next drop, it should line up. So we'll try that, okay? Okay. Because this channel is up, we're going to do it on this one. So what we're essentially doing is we're going to bring it up through here. So imagine this is a full track on a CDJ. So here that's off, on. So remember, closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer. And you want to time it for the drop. Closer, 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 closer. Swap. And I'm going through this pretty quick because we're doing it live. But what I'll start to do is just run you through the concepts of what we're trying to do. Okay, what we're going to try next is we're going to time a drop for that breakdown. So we bring this track out slowly, 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 slowly. Or I just jump to any track. We'll talk about keys later. We're going to do it 32 before the drop. So that's where we're at now. Okay, so if you want to hear what's coming through the headphones, it's pretty well on. And now what's going to happen is this track is going to drop when this breakdown starts. And so essentially we don't want a breakdown, people will just keep dancing through. So if I bring this one in, see it's a little bit out, it's on. So remember, same again, we wanted to bring it closer, closer, bringing it closer, maybe switch. Closer, 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 closer. Switch. Okay, sweet. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to stop the music now and walk you through a little bit of the theory behind what we're trying to do. So when it comes to the levels, essentially what we're trying to do is we don't want to have two of these up. It's called EQ masking. That means that it's going to blow out. Same with the highs, especially the highs, because that's the most obvious in terms of loudness of what we perceive. Lows, you don't want two of those up at the same time because that's essentially what you're feeling through the subs and it can counteract each other. So essentially, if this is the track that's playing and this is the track that's coming in, once I've got it beat matched and it's synced, everything's synced up now. If First thing I do is take the lows out, I put my mids there, put my highs there, and then essentially what you're going to do is you're going to bring this in. By doing it this way, especially if you can add reverb to this channel, it's going to it's not going to take over the track that's playing, it's going to come from behind it, come closer, and then swap. And it's essentially how we're going to try and mix. A lot of people try and mix by bringing this one up, loud, back. And then it's always there. But doing it this way, what it's actually doing is it's putting the track behind the track that's in, just using basic mixing techniques and then bringing it forward. You can leave it blended like that and then out. So instead of it just being up, down, some people even mix and they just chop hard. So they let it build, and then just switch. That's how a lot of people are mixing nowadays. But just doing it this way, you can leave longer blends, especially if you're mixing in 3 decks. It allows 2 tracks to be playing at the same time while you bring the third in. And that way there's always 2. And you bring the first one out as the third one comes in, and vice versa. And it just allows you to have more layers. Okay. I guess what we'll do next is jump into a little bit of the prep stuff. For library prep, what I'll do is I'll turn, hang on. Okay. Yeah, so I guess basics for preparation. These are just some tips that I can kind of give you guys. Know what time you're playing. What that allows you to do is know the mood, know the crowd, know where you want to take the crowd. Also make sure you know what equipment you're playing on. It's hard to show up and be thrown in the deep end with new gear that you're not aware of using. Sometimes people have Allen Heath mixes and people are used to Pioneer decks. That will always throw a lot of people off, especially if you don't know how to mix with 4 EQs. Also know the crowd that you're playing to, what mood or what drugs the people are on. Know who was playing before you and what genre and BPM they were playing. And also just create playlists. You can create sets if you know exactly kind of what you want to play and remove some of the wiggle room, but having playlists allows you to adapt and change to the crowd as and when needed. Sweet, so I guess what we can do is I'll jump into what I'm seeing on the computer. Cool, so library prep. To be honest, this is probably the most important part of DJing. You need to do your homework and you need to make sure that you are prepared. So I'm going to jump out of the playing mode into export mode just to show you guys what's on the screen. Okay, so what I've done on my library, everyone's a bit different. Everyone has different ways of doing this stuff. I'm just kind of showing you how I've done it for mine. I've separated out, this is just for drum and bass, I've separated out my playlists into moods, or time of day. So all my aqua is my daytime, softer drum and bass, liquid. This is the stuff that will go great during the day or early evening. My green is all my halftime stuff. It's a genre, or left field bass is another way of calling it. This is a great, for me at least, I use this to jump in and out of breakdowns. I find that if you're playing the same style of drum and bass for too long, it gets boring. So just being able to switch it up and have some halftime within it can go a long way. So for blue, it's a little bit more full, like a little bit more up than aqua, but not quite like, midnight style. But this would go great at like 8 PM, 9 PM, like opening sets kind of stuff. Purple, a little bit more dancey. Orange and yellow, a little bit more intense. And then I've got a red playlist up here, which is a lot of my neurofunk and more intense stuff for the breathers. And then just some regular vibes, something a little bit different. But yeah, what you want to do essentially is with each track, okay, let's just go into one. Each track, essentially what you want to do, first things first, you want to find your first drop. So if you imagine that's your first drop there, and then what you want to do is you want to set a cue point. So the way to do that, once you've found that point, you press C, that puts your cue button there. So if you press C, you'll be jumping on the cue. So it's C, and then to add a memory point, you press M. And then what you essentially want to do is, if you want to go back, how do I explain this? So essentially what you want to do is, you want to be able to count it in so that you can time this drop when you want the drop to happen. So the way that, like if you look at this for example, if you wanted the same track to drop into the same track of itself, if we wanted this track to drop at the end of the breakdown, then essentially what we'd do is we'd get ready so that when this point here starts, we start this one. And essentially what that means is these are 16 bars each. So for 32 bars until the drop, if we know that this is 32 bars from the drop, then this will drop at the same time. So just to give you guys an example of this, okay, so I'll just start it from back here so I can time this drop at the same time. Oh, oops, it's not in play mode. Performance. Okay, so like I said, these are 16 bars each, 32 here. So I want this track, the first player one track, I want that to drop when that second drop happens. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to that cue point there, and then when this cue point aligns, we're going to press play on the first line. So let's just press start. Okay, you'll start to see. You're not quite in line. Oh. Okay, so that same technique I was showing you guys, we want it to be at the back. So I'm bringing that up. I'm mixing the exact same way, bringing it closer, 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 closer. Just getting it closer and closer. And remember, we're going to switch on the drop. So you start to see the most of the magic when it comes to mixing is your prep. You just need to make sure that you're prepped. I'm just going to turn these lights back on. So yeah, please forgive me. This is the first time kind of like trying to teach this stuff. It's a little bit fast, and I'm kind of just filming it because everyone learns at their own pace. But I'm just trying to run you guys through a little bit of at least the theory of what you're trying to achieve with mixing. So if I just jump back into the computer for a second. Okay. So yeah, back to suggestions for your prep. Yeah, first, know what time you're playing, know what time or equipment you're playing on, know your crowd and the mode that the crowd is going to be in, know who's playing before you, and yeah, create your playlists, know what you're going to use when, and create your sets. You can pretty much go into as much detail as you need to with sets. I'll run you through my set for Dimension to give you an idea. But yeah, during the set, rule number one, dance. There's a saying that you should never trust a DJ that doesn't dance. You need to be able to feel the music. If you're not feeling the music, people won't feel the music, and people will catch on straight away that you're just faking it, you know. That's the thing, is people don't vibe with the music. Sometimes they vibe with the DJ more than anything. So yeah, be sure to dance. And also your energy levels. If you look tired and you're yawning, it's going to bring the crowd down, and people are just going to get bored of what you're playing. Also be aware of too many breakdowns in a set. What I've noticed, that people need to release stuff through dance, and if every 30 seconds they're standing around waiting for more music to dance to, they just get bored. Another tip, don't play wasted. I've seen a lot of people mess it up from being too drunk or tripping too much or too high. It's a little bit hypocritical of me to say, you know, sometimes when I play I'd take uppers to make sure that I'm sharp and onto it, but if you kind of prepare yourself enough, then you shouldn't really need to, but it's within reason. You know, we're all young once, and we all get a bit carried away from time to time. Make sure that you smile and enjoy yourself. People resonate with that big time. Minimize your phones. If you're there taking selfies and going live on Facebook, it just looks stupid, and you look stupid, and it takes away from you being in the moment. Other tips that I can give you is heart rate. People don't realize this, but BPM and heart rate go hand in hand. If you can get people up to 142 BPM, you know, that's 30-year-olds, that's a 75% maximum heart rate. So, you know, people are there, people are releasing, people are energized and up. You know, if you want people to chill out, then, you know, this is your BPM range. You start to see how this all correlates. If you want people to really push the limits, then faster and faster and faster, you know. I can only speak from experience that with Psytrance, it's all from 138 to 150-ish BPM. There is BPMs that go faster, but if you can keep a person at 146 BPM for an hour and a half, you know, that's 75% their average heart rate. They're obviously going to release stuff and let go of stuff. So this is what we went through today. It was a little bit quick in what we're doing, but this is the theory behind what you're trying to achieve. The basic elements is you've got your left to right, you've got your EQ, which is your frequency range from top to bottom, and you've got your field of depth. So what we're trying to achieve today through mixing is the field of depth. We're playing with that field of depth. Other tips, make sure you have spare USBs when you guys are playing. It's nothing worse than going up and your USB doesn't work, so have a spare. Sometimes have 2 spares. All of my big sets I've always had 3 USBs good to go, so that if there's any chance that one's going to fuck out, then we've got a spare. Good headphones, invest in good headphones. That'll be the make or break for a lot of DJs, especially if you are just starting out, because you need to be able to know what you're playing. Use resources. One way that I find new tracks is to listen to SoundCloud mixes of my favorite DJs and listen to what they're playing, because if they're good enough to be playing main stage of big festivals, then obviously they know what they're up to. So yeah, ride on the shoulders of those giants and just see how they're doing it. You should aim for that. I'm going to add in one here, no MP3s. So this is up for debate. A lot of people feel like it's okay to play MP3s, but MP3s are a compression algorithm, and you're not playing the full track. And you might not notice it on your phone or in your car, but when you're playing it on big sound systems, it's night and day what you are playing, and it just sounds so empty and flat. You know, people will argue that till the cows come home, but I've been around big sound systems for the last 5 or 6 years, and I guarantee you that the MP3s will it just takes away from sound, you know. What you want to be using is AIFF. Some people use WAV, but the only reason I say AIFF is it comes with all the track information embedded in it. So when you load your tracks into Rekordbox, it's already got the artist, it's already got the title, the genre, the album, all the information is in there. So just go straight for AIFF. One big tip when it comes to being a DJ is just find your creative identity, what makes you unique, you know, what's something that you can do that no one else has done, you know. What we're going to do is just go for a basic mix. What I'll do is I'll do drum and bass, and since it's probably the easiest to explain, 23, driving up to 174 BPM. So remember the headphones are going to be coming through the speaker on the left. So same again, remember we want this drop to line up with this breakdown, so no breakdown during the song. So by the time we want this one here to start with here, so by the time this drop happens, this drop is happening, and there's going to be no breakdown, because by the time this breakdown is happening, this drop is going to be in. Okay. So remember, if we're listening to what's coming through the headphones, this is essentially what we'll be listening. You know, so it's there, it's already ready to go, and that's 32 bars before the other track. So you know, if we're listening to the other one, what's happening there, we're trying to time it. See, that's off, on, off, off. So here the arrow comes. So syncing it. So this is what you would be hearing through the headphones. This is what's coming out of the rig. So I'll turn the headphones off now that it's in sync. Remember, lows all the way down, mids at about 10, highs at 9. And we're going to start bringing this in. So now those tracks are layered. Remember, like I said, if you want, add a little bit of reverb to get that depth out. And then what we're going to do, remember, bring it closer, like I said, closer, 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 closer. And then when the drop happens, switch, reverb off. So remember, this track now is coming out, so we're pushing it to the back, pushing it to the back. Add a little bit of reverb to widen that field of depth. So now this track that we're bringing out is at the back now, and then you can start to bring the volume out. So it's coming out. If you've got 3 decks, you can leave it in, but what we're going to do is we're just going to bring it out. And we'll bring in another track. It's a little bit tricky to do. Alright, we'll just do it like this. So, okay, so we'll bring in this next track. So bring that out. The same again, we want this to drop maybe when the other one finishes. So match the BPM, 174, 174, start on the keyboard. Normally your parameters, when you're bringing it out, you're bringing it in, it's the same. So if you notice now, 10, 9, reverb, so this track is sitting in the background. And these are going to drop at the same time. The good thing about Rekordbox is you've got a visual cue to see what's actually going on. But if you notice it, so what we're going to do, bring it closer, turn down the reverb, even turn it off. Closer, 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 and swapping now. Now this is the track that we're bringing out. You can add a little bit of reverb to push that field of depth out. Down, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Okay, so we'll do another one. Okay, so for this next track, what we're going to do is we're going to drop it on the breakdown so that there's no breakdown. So if you notice it here, like I said, we've got this going on, and then 32 until the drop. So same here, and we've got this already cued. So listening to the headphones. So we want to start it on that cue point. Here it comes. So remember, the one that we're hearing out of this speaker on your left is what we would be hearing in the headphones. So yeah, that's all lined up. So headphones off, or you can leave them on when you're mixing. And you're going to bring it in. I'll just turn the headphones down so we can hear the master. So bring it in. So that's 2 songs. And again, remember, so at the moment this is sitting at the back, reverb, highs at 9. So bringing it closer, closer, bringing it closer, 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 reverb off, bringing it there, stopping your highs, now switch on the drops. Remember, so this track in the background, making it go further away, reverb to widen the field of depth. Now that's nicely layered, you know, you've got this track in the front, obvious, this one in the back, filling out the spectrum. So just without that track, see, it's just that little bit of extra layer, you know, especially when it comes to vocals. So we're bringing this out. Okay, let's do another track. So we'll do the same again. For the next one, we're going to bring it again. So it's going to drop it's going to drop the same time as the breakdown. So everything the same, mids, highs, reverb, field of depth, so that when that cue point comes, we're just pressing play. And we should be careful of the BPM 174 and 74. So playing it now, this is what you'll be hearing through the headphones. Let's turn the headphones up so you guys can hear it. So that's what we're bringing in the background. So you can kind of hear what would be in the headphones. We're bringing it up. I'll turn the headphones down so you can hear it coming out of the mains. So bringing it closer, 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 closer. You can switch to the main mids. Closer, closer, closer. Turning the reverb down, off, closer, closer, closer. Switching. Now this one further away, switch on the drop. See, no breakdowns, just from one into the next. So same, making this go further away, reverb to widen that field of depth. Now it's sitting in the background. So that's 2 tracks playing. Okay, let's do it again, just to like make sure that you guys are understanding what's going on. So bringing this one out. So for this next one, we're going to get the drops to drop at the same time. So bringing it in. So what we want to try and do is this 32 is going to drop at the end of this. So we want to time it on that cue point there. So again, headphones is what we'll be hearing in the headphones. Okay, here we go. So this is what we're hearing in the headphones. So bring it in. The problem with doing it breakdown to breakdown is you don't know if it's perfectly synced with the beat until the end. So you hear it in the background. Remember again, closer, closer. With the breakdown you got a little bit more forgiveness. So you can even swap it earlier, bring that second track closer, closer, switching it. It's the same, reverb, swapping it over. So now that track that we're taking out is behind it, reverb, highs. Now we're switching the lows on the drop. So just to give you an idea of what just that sounds like. Okay, so that's just that. This is what you're hearing out of the rig. So that's the basics, you know, that's what we're trying to achieve. Now we can do one more, and then we'll just do a little bit more theory stuff. So bring that out. So same again, 32 bars before the drop, and we'll get it to drop during this breakdown so that we have no breakdown, just constant beat going through. So remember, this is our headphones. Here it comes. Headphones on this one, this is what's coming out of the rig. So you can hear it's pretty well synced up. Just turn the headphones down, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Okay, normally try and give yourself 16 bars to mix, so that's already up with 16 bars to go before the drop. Remember, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, bring it closer. Turn your reverb down, off, closer, closer, closer. Now this one's going away. Switch on the drop. Now we're doing the opposite on this side. Further away, further away, further away. Reverb to widen that field of depth. Sweet. So that's a very quick rundown of everything that's going on with this stuff. But you know, like, just to kind of sum up what we've talked about today, if you can minimize breakdowns and you can drop the beginning of one track and the beginning of the breakdown of another track, it means that there's no breakdowns, no people standing around waiting. It's just ongoing. So you know, with drum and bass, when there's 3 decks, you can pretty much have a whole set with maybe 2 breakdowns. And then people will remember that because they're essentially dancing the whole time, you know. More breakdowns means more standing around. One thing also I didn't touch on with this prep is around labeling your tracks. When you get your, I'll go out of this. Normally when you get your tracks, you have a key at the bottom. This is how it normally comes, classic. A minor, D minor, F, A. So have all your keys. What you can do is you want to switch that to alphanumeric. And then essentially what you want to do is you want to put the numbers that you've got here, 7A, 8A, you want to put it at the beginning of your tracks. Now the reason we do that, there's what's called a Camelot mixing wheel. This pretty much mirrors the circle of fifths in music theory. And essentially what you want to do is, this is your movement. So for example, if you're in C minor, the places you can move to, F minor, G minor. So you're going from 5A to 4A or 6A. You can also go out from 5A to 5B. Another way of mixing is going from minor to major. So you're going from C minor to C major, 5A to 8B, or 3A to 6B, you know, so on and so forth. You're adding 3 and changing it. And the reason we do that is if you have sorted all your tracks into styles and you've got a playlist of all the tracks you need to do, then you go sort by track title. That way when you're mixing, you can know that you can go from this track here, 5A, you can go to 4A, you can go to 6A, you can go to 8B, and in that way it's a lot easier to mix and it sound clean. You know, if you do that for all your tracks, then essentially you're going to the style of music you want to play, sort by track title, and then you'll be able to mix in key every time. So yeah, this has been a pretty quick run through of everything. I'm not too sure when which camera's cut off, but I'll edit this into something that is somewhat palatable. But just to summarize what we went through in that slideshow, going back through this, so yeah, first things first, know what time you're playing, know what equipment you're playing on, know the crowd you're playing to, know who's playing before you, so that you can create a nice flow or create a point of difference. Yeah, dance. Make sure that you guys are dancing while you're playing. It's pretty much essential. Be aware of too many breakdowns. Like I was showing you with the drum and bass, if you can mix it so that there's no breakdowns, then it will keep people dancing the whole time. Be aware of your own energy levels. If you look tired, people will see that and they'll start to feel tired. So, you know, whatever you need, Red Bulls, a banana. Yeah, don't play wasted. You know, it's a little bit hypocritical of me to say. I've made that mistake a few times, but you know, sometimes uppers can go a long way. But if you can, play sober. Smile and enjoy yourself. That's a big one. You're doing it because you love it. If you're doing it for any other reasons, if you're doing it for vanity, if you're doing it for ego, you'll never go anywhere. Minimize phone times, no selfies, no going live. It just looks stupid. And you want to be present as much as you can for crowd interaction. Remember your BPMs and your heart rate. I guess this is something that's a little bit different. You know, it's for psytrance mostly. 138 is your standard psytrance. 150 is kind of what I play. But if you can keep people's heart rates up, then they're more likely to be able to release stuff and have a good boogie. Again, basic mixing. You've got your left to right is your pan. You've got your top to bottom, which is your EQ, and front to back. So that's where a lot of people will be different. How do they achieve this? And what I showed you today is just one way that I've found to achieve this field of depth. And also don't forget spare USBs, good headphones, find as many different ways you can to find music. No MP3s, AIFF is definitely the best one to use. It embeds the data and it's lossless audio. Find your creative identity, what makes you unique, and find ways of bringing that through into all your DJ sets. So remember, just to go over this one more time, you know, if this is the track that we're bringing in, this track is already up. Essentially what we want to do is if you have this in mids and highs, essentially that field of depth is in the back. It's as far back as you can. If you can add a little bit of reverb to that, it's just going to widen that. And then as you're bringing it in, as you're bringing this track in, you want to kind of be up with this levels with 16 bars to go. Then you're using 16 bars to bring this closer, closer, closer. So you're bringing it closer in terms of field of depth. By the time the drop is about to happen, you can already have that switched over just before the drop. It's coming, 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 and then drop. Okay, so if we were to do it the other way, we're bringing this track in, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer, bringing it closer. You can even switch those around. Bringing it closer before the drop. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and drop. Okay. So yeah, again guys, we went over this pretty quick. This is the first time kind of doing this and just trying to teach what I know, but hopefully there's at least a couple of takeaways for you guys. And yeah, be sure to message me if you guys need a hand with anything. Happy to help. Sweet.